All right, so let's look at the action, location, and the names of the muscles. So let's look at the action of the muscles. So whenever we have a muscle contraction, we're going to have a prime mover. A prime mover, this is the muscle that produces the most force during a particular contraction. So in this contraction, this flexion, the biceps brachii is the prime mover. If the muscle has another muscle that aids in that movement, that is known as a synergist. So that's a muscle that aids a prime mover. Now, in this flexion here, the biceps brachii is a prime mover, and there's another muscle that's found roughly right here, and that's called the brachialis, and that's also going to help out in that flexion movement. Now, we're also going to have an antagonist, and in this case, the antagonist is a triceps brachii. So the antagonist is a muscle that opposes the prime mover. So it moderates the speed or range of the prime mover. It's also going to help prevent excessive movement, and it also refines that movement. So you can do a flexion in this way, or this way, or this way, or this way, or anywhere in between, and all of those are going to, that triceps brachii is going to help in that movement. Okay, so if you do a flexion, your biceps brachii is the prime mover, but if you do an extension, especially like doing a push-up, your triceps brachii becomes a prime mover, and the biceps brachii becomes the antagonist. Next is a fixator. A fixator is a muscle that prevents a bone from moving. All right, so if you just hold this pose, all of these would be fixators. All right, let's look at the location of muscles. So some muscles are what we call intrinsic muscles, and these are muscles contained within a particular region. So, you know, we can have some hand movements here that are caused by these muscles within our hand, and so those are intrinsic muscles. And we can also have hand movements that are caused by muscles outside of the hand, and those are known as extrinsic muscles. So extrinsic muscles are muscles that act upon a designated region, but with an origin elsewhere. So you move your fingers up like so, you know, you're contracting these muscles there in your forearm. All right, so let's take a look at the naming of skeletal muscles. We name skeletal muscles a few different ways. One is by the location of the muscle. So, you know, this indicates the bone or body region. So the temporalis there is right on top of the temporal bone. Okay, so I don't know if there's any other one shown on here. No, that's the other one. So next is the shape of the muscle. So you know, this triangular shape is, you know, a deltoid, all right? So that's the shoulder muscle is the deltoid. It has a triangular shape, delta is triangular. So you can see some of these shapes are also used in the name there, okay? So you can see the trapezius has a trapezoid shape. The digastric muscle, which we see with the kitty cats, has two bellies. All right, moving on. So another way we name muscles is by the relative size. You know, where we use maximus versus minimus, or major versus minor. So those are some indications like pectoralis major, pectoralis minor, right? So the major is larger than the minor, and so on. Another is direction of the muscles, all right? This is the directions that the fibers run in reference to a line. So rectus means they're straight. Oblique, like what we see here on the side, means that they're at an angle, all right? Next is the number of origins. This is what we see. The biceps brachii has 2 origins. The triceps brachii has 3 origins, all right? Next is the location of the attachments. When we name a muscle for the location of its attachment, they usually name the origin or origins first, and then the insertion or insertions. All right, so one is the sternocleidomastoid, so its origins are on the sternum, and the cleido stands for clavicle, and then it goes to the mastoid process. All right. Next, it's its action, whether it's a flexor or an extender. So flexors are going to flex the fingers, right? So that's why we see these flexor digitorum and stuff like that. All right. Or extenders are going to extend the fingers, so the extensor digitorum that's found on the top of the forearm there. All right, so there's the extensor digitorum. Next, let's look at movement of muscles. So when muscles contract, the force that they create, which is known as a pull of the contraction, is applied to levers, which are the bones. This results in the movement of those levers, those bones. And so the fulcrum is the pivot point or the hinge here. All right? So muscles provide the pull to move these levers. All right? So the first type of lever we're going to talk about is a class 1 lever. And here the fulcrum is located between the pull and the weight. So you can see here with the teeter-totter, here's the fulcrum, there's the pull, there's the weight. Our head on our neck exhibits a class 1 lever. A next type here is a class 2 lever, and here the weight is located between the fulcrum and the pull. So the fulcrum is here, here's the pull, there's the weight, all right? So this is shown with a wheelbarrow, right? And so lowering of the jaw shows an example of a class 2 lever. Next is a class 3 lever, and this is the most common type of lever. Here the pull is located between the fulcrum and the weight. So here's the pull, there's the weight, there's the fulcrum. So you can see that here, like lifting, snow with a shovel is example of a type 3. All right. So our biceps brachii, pulling a weight there, also exhibits that type 3 lever.